Wow, we were shocked about the recent decrease in interest rate. My bet was that something around a quarter point, but fortunately for us, the Fed surprised us. And I know some of you were surprised like I was, because we're not expecting a drastic move, at least not the first time, but rather it was very, very drastic and very interesting. So now, taking a deeper look at what the issue might be or why the Fed might have done that. So I went to make some little research to find out what exactly is going on. Let's briefly talk about how we got to where we are. We know that inflation rose to about 9.1% in 2022, and ever since then, the Fed have been looking for ways to bring it down to 2%. And one of the ways the Fed have been trying to bring down the interest rate is through unemployment. The idea is when employment goes up, that means the spending power of people will be affected, and then people will not be able to buy more, and the money in the economy will start to shrink and all that. So that was supposed to be one of the two. I was looking at the graph of the unemployment rate, and since 2007, I think this so far has been the highest unemployment that we have. Disregard 2020 during the COVID-19 period. In that period, everybody was unemployed. So let's just take that to the other side. Looking at where we are currently, because unemployment is currently at 4.4%, that is a significant increase compared to where we were several months ago. I think I remember I did a video and we are 3.8% unemployment rate, but right now we are 4.4%. So let me break it down. Looking at a 4.4% rate, you might not understand what that means. So I went to do some research. My research was 4.4% of what is the labor market. Based on my research, it was 166 million people, labor force estimated to be working. So if that is so, 4.4% should be somewhere around 7.6 million. So every 1%, I think 1.6 or 1.7 million. That's a significant amount of people that are out of jobs. So if you look at the percentage just from the last few months, 3.8 to 4.4, that means almost a million or more are currently unemployed. And how does that affect us? Why is this kind of disturbing, looking at everything? After all, the first intention is pretty normal to bring down inflation, and unemployment should be one of the two that they should use. But what is the consequences of doing that? And if you're looking at it, it's like we are on a pendulum, and this is how the pendulum is, and the Fed is going this way. It's trying to adjust inflation. In the process of adjusting inflation, the unemployment rate is going up, and if there is no proper balance, there's going to be something called a recession. That is, people are going to suffer because they don't have job. The economy is going to be under pressure and all that, and before you know it, there's a recession. So there's a very tiny line trying to control inflation and not falling into recession. So I believe maybe that is one of the reasons why the Fed decided to give us a 0.5% reduction in our interest rate. I have a feeling that that's what is going on. I'm looking at it. They're trying to prevent the recession from happening. I might be wrong, but I'm looking at it that way because unemployment really went up. 4.4 is not something you can take your eyes off and say it didn't happen and all that. Based on that, so what are some of the effects of this 4.4% unemployment rate on our economy? One of the effects is it reduces consumer spending. So now we are seeing people turning down on their vacation, turning down on expenses, maybe things they normally do. People are now toning down on it or even stopping it totally and trying to focus more on the things that really matter, like food, shelter, transportation, and all that. We are seeing people doing that. So that's one of the effects of if the unemployment rate keeps going high. The second effect of this unemployment rate is the effect on housing. So for people that want to buy a house, that might be very, very challenging for them at this point to think of buying a house because they don't even have the down payment to make that purchase. Although to some extent it benefits the multifamily, but there's a caveat to that because at the same time, people might not even be able to afford paying their rent. So that is also a challenge as well. It's going to affect the housing market. It's going to affect the spending market. It's going to affect businesses. Businesses might start slowing down. Yes, definitely. That's what's causing the unemployment rate. You start seeing businesses letting go of staffs, downsizing, and all that to accommodate the effect or the pressure that is having on them. You also have people having less confidence in the market, especially people that are investing in the stock market. You see the stock market fluctuating. Although the stock market is very, very volatile, anything can definitely affect it. But this is one of the things that can affect that if unemployment keeps going higher. So what can you do as an individual or as a family person or as a citizen or a resident of this country? What can you do during this period? Number one is they can start reevaluating their budget and their expenses and start cutting down on things that are not necessary at this time. And the second thing that they can do is for you to start diversifying your income stream. Some of you that are just in the stock market, you might start thinking of investing in other types of assets. Like for one, multifamily, which I am currently investing in. And you can invest in things like insurance and all that, or the treasury bond. So you can decide to start diversifying your investment. And also, you can also try to strengthen your emergency savings at this point. Before now, emergency savings would have been 3 months, but after the pandemic, we saw people raising their emergency savings to 6 months. So based on this, you might decide to increase that to 1 year because that will help you in case of any emergency. Maybe if you lose your job and all that, you'll be able to cover for the next 1 year based on what is happening. Some other things you can do as an individual is start monitoring the government program, because there are some financial aids that may be beneficial to you or maybe a family friend or a family member that they can use to better their lives and all that. So that is for individuals. So as a multifamily investor, what are the things that you should be doing? Number one is invest in quality property management. I cannot stop emphasizing on having an effective and an efficient property management company, especially in this critical time, because if you have an effective property management, that will help you get the right tenants and also operate properly. The second thing you should be doing is to reevaluate your tenant profile, your tenant stability. You need to also find out what's happening with their jobs and their employment and all that, if it's at risk. If you have a good property manager, they'll be able to create that customer relationship with the tenant, and the tenant might be able to communicate their problems and all that. And based on that, you might need to start making some things flexible or accommodating some changes or involving new changes to the entire portfolio and all that. But it's important that you need to start reevaluating your tenant stability at this time. The third thing that you need to do is to diversify in your property portfolio. So if you have all Class C properties and you don't have B or A, you might need to start investing in Class B, C, and A, or Class C and B, or Class A and B. You might need to start doing all that at this point, because when things like this happen, it might affect a particular class of multifamily. So for example, if there's a serious recession, it's going to affect the C-class property people because they might end up losing their jobs, and also the A-class people. The A-class people are prone to losing their jobs, and if they do, you might start having vacancies and all that. So it's important that before that happens, you start reevaluating the tenant stability. Do they still have a job? Is the job stable? What's the problem? Are they out of job? When are they getting a new one and all that? So these are things that you might need to start asking to ensure that you have a good tenant stability. So if you are thinking of investing in some market, you need to reevaluate, do your due diligence on the market you want to go to, and be sure that it's a strong market that can withstand a recession or inflation, whatever that case might be. This is the time for you to start reassessing the market you want to invest in. So another very interesting one is, this is the time for you to start optimizing rent pricing. So let me explain this. You might need to start adjusting to where the market is, but there's a caveat on that as well. You also need to be very careful not to increase to the extent that you start losing your tenants, because if there's serious unemployment, they might find it difficult to start paying their rent. So it's important that you reevaluate where your tenant before you start adjusting to the market. But as an investor, if everything is fine, maybe with your tenant, you've done your tenant stability check and all, and everything is fine, in order for you to adjust to the economy situation, you might need to start adjusting your rent to where the market is to avoid loss to lease and vacancy. But I would say, for one, this is not the time for you to start becoming very bold or aggressive on increasing rent due to this unemployment that is currently increasing. Also, very importantly, this is a period for you to start enhancing your property value. This is important because this might be the time for you to start doing those renovations on on those units and to justify the increased rent, and also maybe to attract the right people to your property. This might just be the time for you to start doing that. But you have to be careful as well. You have to study and know what the return will be. Is it justifiable for you to start doing some renovation, and what value will it bring, especially at this time? Will people be able to afford it if you do those renovations to those units? Will they be able to afford the new rent that you're going to put in place? And if the study shows you that no, that people are really stretched thin based on the class of assets that you have, you might need to hold off on that while the market improves furthermore. The last but not the least, what I'm saying is not limited to everything I've said, but I will use this as my last point, is for you to stay informed with policies, especially now that the election is fast approaching. We don't know who is going to be the president, but regardless, whoever is going to be the president is going to bring some form of reform. We don't know where that reforms is going to come from. Regardless, you just need to keep up and stay informed with everything that is happening and try to be flexible to see how you can adjust to the changes that are forthcoming. So in conclusion, while the Fed is trying to control inflation, right now inflation is almost 2%. Why they're trying to do that is having an adverse effect on employment. There are things that as investors or as an individual we need to start doing to avoid the effect on any of us. I don't know what you are doing currently to start mitigating the effect of unemployment, because this unemployment is not far-fetched from you. It can be you, it can be your family member, your spouse and all that. It might be someone around you. So what are the things that you guys are currently doing to minimize the effect of this unemployment that the Fed is kind of causing, but with the intention to reduce inflation? I would like to hear from you. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please follow us on Blue Ocean Multifamily Group on our YouTube, where you have all content on multifamily and many more. Follow us, Blue Ocean Multifamily Group, and on Instagram as well as Blue Ocean _multifamily. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.